We're bringing Candace Mitchell, one of the co-founders of Techturized, the powerhouse known as Techturized. They are actually somebody I saw present when I first was introduced to the idea of Flashpoint and the last cohort. We've gotten to know each other very well because you and the company that you're building are housed in Hypotheses, which is great. Always great to have you. Fascinating thing to me, many things, is when you know somebody so well, then you have someone do research on them. You've got a lot of different facets to your life as well, and it's, you started your career at PepsiCo, and while you were a student at Georgia Tech, you racked up the honors. That's not a surprise to me. And, did very well in a leadership perspective as well as academic. Went out into the real world and then had this crazy idea: let's create this hair care technology company called Techturized. Right. Knowing that you have multiple co-founders, I'm curious, first of all, in terms of the frame of leadership, how do you balance the vision of 4 different co-founders, and what does leadership look like when you have 4 co-founders?
Right. Well, the biggest thing is to understand that everyone is aligned in the same vision, because you can't have multiple visions in the startup. You have to be one that everyone is in alignment with. But in addition to that, knowing what each other's strengths are and what their interests and passions are, that's when you have time to bring in some diversity and really strengthen the vision of the company. So what we did in the very beginning is we sat down and say, okay, what are you most interested in focusing on? And it was a blessing that we all had different areas, from executive to marketing, technology, science, and research and development. So it kind of naturally unfolded, and we had our domains of expertise. But I would say in the very beginning, it's important for, if you have multiple co-founders, for everyone to have their area of strength that they can focus on, because that's when you really do your best. When you're working on something that you're really good at, you can really shine. And so that's what was really important for our team, to be as strong as we could be.
Mm-hmm. And so this idea, walk us through the conception of Techturized and really the leadership, some examples of leadership that you've seen within your team.
Right. So actually a year ago on this very day, we had our demo day for Flashpoint. So this is actually our first day in Flashpoint. So about a year ago, 3 months prior to that, we were actually meeting on Google Hangout, because we were in 3 separate cities. And so we met every week to really work on the business concept. And then Merrick is actually a former professor of mine, and so I always let him know different entrepreneurial things that I wanted to do and bring to fruition. And then he introduced me to Flashpoint, and so we were all excited about that opportunity, and we applied. And some different areas of leadership is, I was actually living in Dallas at the time, and so I decided to quit my job and jump full into the startup life, which sounds very crazy, and it felt very, very crazy, but it was something that I believed in 200%. And in addition to that, we all had sacrifices that we made, and it really takes leadership to be able to make those sacrifices, to know that it's all working to a brighter future, to do something that you actually want to do. So the fact that we all, we prepared pitches, we worked on different concepts for customer discovery, that's how all of our leadership elements rose to the occasion.
So was it a balancing act, where individuals in different circumstances within the founding team would take the kind of that leadership role, or did it look different than that?
It was definitely integration, because as a co-founding team, you always have to be, there has to be a balance amongst you all as leaders in the company too. So it was definitely integration, because there's different elements where one person would take the leadership on, whether it was development, or someone would take the leadership on customer discovery, someone would take the leadership on maybe new marketing concepts or things like that. So it was definitely integrated, and everyone knew when it was specifically focused on one person to actually take that area of responsibility. So I think if you can keep that going throughout the ups and downs of startups, it really just helps you further refine yourself as a leader.
And so you're seeing growth within your company. You're bringing on new hires and summer interns and all. And so what's the challenge now, going from those 4 co-founders on Google Hangouts to new people showing up?
Right. Well, one of the biggest things is creating a company culture or a startup culture. So as you bring in new people into your team, you want to make sure that, 1, they feel welcome, 2, that they understand the vision and what is the bigger goal that we're all striving towards, and 3, understand how, the startup we are today wasn't the same startup a year ago. So just constantly adapting to change. We see change on a daily basis, so it really takes initiative and understanding, okay, startup pace is very fast, and you're constantly testing hypotheses. You may pivot a couple of times, so you can't be adverse to change. So it's really important when you're building out your team is for everyone to understand what's the DNA of your company. Taking initiative, knowing what the risks are, having a fun spirit. We're a pretty fun team. You want people to enjoy what they're doing and have a good time whenever you interact with anyone on our team too. So just really understanding that as you bring new people on, that they understand what the culture is like, what's the DNA of the company to thrive, and then how are we going to attain our next goal.
And the interesting thing, you have 4 strong, very intelligent, very successful women that created this, and now you're growing, and you're going after a very niche market, which represents a very large market opportunity within hair care, natural hair movement. I'm curious, there's a lot of buzz around need more women entrepreneurs, need more minority entrepreneurs. You fit both those bills. What is it like building the company? Do you see a difference? Is there a difference between what the traditional startup scene would be with guy-driven, maybe Caucasian-driven, versus minority women-driven?
Right, definitely a difference, especially in the field of engineering as a whole. Coming from Georgia Tech, which is also a male-dominated school, Caucasian-dominated school, I think the biggest difference is really diversity of thought, because my background, my perspective is completely different from an investor that I may be talking to, or a mentor who, has a different cultural background or things of that nature. So by that fact alone, bringing that diversity of thought and opinion, it just really makes a huge difference in really the potential that you can reach, because there are things that we may have never even thought about that someone who comes from a different background or even from a different market can apply to. When we looked at the revenue streams from how to grow our business, we're primarily focusing on hair care, but there are elements of e-commerce and data that come into play. So where are those people who are gung-ho on data or e-commerce, and how can we bring both of those worlds together? And then also from a technology perspective, my favorite class was algorithms, and we didn't talk about hair in algorithms class, so how can I apply those same knowledge and expertise from those thought leaders and really transform a market in the way that we're intending to do? So I think by having that diversity and those differences, you're really transforming the way people think and also transforming markets and the way people live.
Candace Mitchell, thank you. You're done with the hot seat.